Hey guys, what's up? Nick here once again. In today's video on Do You Remember, we're checking out Downhill Domination on the PlayStation 2. So let's get right into it. Downhill Domination is a gem of a game, and I've absolutely loved it ever since I got my hand on it back in like 2004, around that era. It was right before I got a PS3 basically. I found this at a bargain bin, I think at a GameStop, picked it up, just didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what I was in for. But immediately I was blown away by the amount of fun from this game, and that I found out it was made by the same people that made my favorite gaming series of all time, Twisted Metal. So the first thing is that yes, it is made by Incog Inc., which if you didn't know, they also made games like Twisted Metal Black, Twisted Metal Head On, and War of the Monsters, which are all really great games if you haven't checked them out. And I just was really blown away that this game, a racing game that has nothing to do with cars, it's actually with mountain bikes, was made by the same guys that made Twisted Metal. And with more further research, I found out this is actually made by Scott Campbell and his team, and not necessarily David Jaffe, since he went out to make God of War and a couple other games. So Scott Campbell, our Lord and Savior, he went out and created Downhill Domination out of a passion project for mountain biking. And apparently he used to mountain bike all the time to work back in the day when he worked at Incog Inc. in, I think it was San Diego, California. It might have been Utah. They get kind of mixed up of where they're from. But it's still really cool to hear that he took a huge hobby of his and actually was able to create a really fun and interesting game out of it. Another thing too is from the reviews of this game back in the day, they came out and said that this game didn't innovate, didn't make anything new out of an already existing genre. But I'd have to completely argue against that, because I'm sorry, have you ever heard of another mountain biking racing game that's an arcade racer before? I don't think so. At least I've never seen it before. And it's really fun. And that's the thing, like, you hear mountain biking in a video game and you're kind of like, I don't know, man. It's kind of boring. But I can tell you, this game is anything but boring. So right off the bat, you can choose between many different types of characters that all come with different voice actors and different quips and lines throughout the game as well. And they have their own personalities sprinkled in, which I found really cool. There is no way to create your own character, sadly. I wish there was a way to do that, but I kind of understand why they went this route. But there's a lot to choose from. I think there's like 13, maybe 14 characters total once you've unlocked all of them, including some secret characters throughout the game. And talking about that, there is a lot of secrets to unlock in this game throughout just playing it. Both via just defeating the main storyline, which there really isn't a story to this game. It's literally just, here's a ton of different races in a row, get first place, you move on to the next event, so on and so forth. And throughout that, you do unlock different bikes and different people to choose from. But you can also do some special events and stuff like that to get money, and then use that in-game money to purchase these secret unlockable characters, bikes, and some stuff like that. There's also different music tracks to unlock and a ton of extra little goodies that give the game a lot of replay value, which I have to really applaud them for. But the characters that you can unlock just get insanely crazy, including one of them is like, it basically looks like the Neversoft character, which doesn't make any sense because this is not a Neversoft game. He's like an electric monster with just a single eyeball. And then you can unlock vehicles, or I should say different types of bikes. Sorry, not vehicles, but these different type of bikes that some of them are even animals. There's like a deer, there's a llama. It gets pretty radical, but it's all just in good fun. It's not meant to take itself seriously, and you can really tell in the gameplay that it's meant to be an arcade racer. Because I think if they made this game too realistic, or they tried to make it really, down to earth of what mountain biking is, especially in high intensive races, I think it would have been more boring. I don't think it would have been nearly as fun as it is. It could have been interesting for people who are enthusiasts of mountain bikes, but everybody else would have probably just been, turned away, including myself. But I'm not a mountain biker myself. I've never done it before, and I still have a really good time with this game because they took the gameplay elements of like Burnout 3 and Twisted Metal and stuff like that and kind of mix it together in this arcadey, fun, fast-paced racing experience. And with that, you can race on a ton of different mountains around the globe, from Russia, Hawaii, Italy, etc. There is a lot to choose from here. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head of how many levels there are in this game. If I was to guess, there's probably like 14. It does really feel like there's a lot to choose from, so I, again, have to applaud him for that. Graphics, I think, are okay. Even looking back at it today, I like to give it a pass because, coming back to these older games after being spoiled with what we have today, looking at like Spider-Man 2 that just came on the PS5, it's crazy how far we've come in graphic fidelity and with texture mapping and stuff like that. So I like to give games a benefit of the doubt coming back to them. But looking at other games that came out around the same time as Downhill Domination, this one doesn't really hold up too much in the graphic department. However, there are some really neat weather effects throughout the game in different levels. There's different effects like that, like lava and stuff like that, and water effects in Russia. And also the frame rate is just amazing. This game runs flawlessly, especially on emulator. But I remember even back on the PS2, it ran really great. It almost feels like a 60 FPS game. I'm probably wrong in that. It's probably 30 FPS, but there's a lot of games that you guys know you've played back in the day that really dip below 30 FPS, and you can really see it tank in certain situations, but not the case here. This game is very fluid. It runs great. It kind of reminds me of Burnout 3, where it's a very fast-paced racing game that has a great frame rate. It just feels good to play. On top of that, with the great frame rate, the sense of speed is also really well done here. Again, you think of mountain biking, you're like, it can't be that fast. It's going to be pretty boring and slow-paced, but no, it is an arcade racer through and through. It's very quick, very fast-paced. This could be also kind of a downside to some people if you're not a fan of fast-paced gameplay. You have to do a lot of last, like, millisecond turns and different situations to not hit certain objects as you're falling down the mountain. And these are huge levels, by the way. Like, you might think of, oh, it's a mountain race, you're just going from top to bottom. They're all going to be like a minute long. But no, in reality, most races last anywhere from 5 to 8 minutes, which is a pretty big, you know, and especially if you look at other racing games in the genre. I mean, a regular 3-lap race is roughly about 4 minutes in most games. So getting a full like 5 to 8 minute race is pretty damn good. There isn't any variations in the game, sadly, of these levels, so you're going to pretty much be doing the same race every time you go back to that same area. That's why it's good there's a lot of variation throughout the game, so you do get to mix it up from here and there. But all in all, yeah, the sense of speed is great. The racing mechanics, you kind of almost forget this is a racing game because you end up having so much fun with all the other mechanics in it, including different tricks you can master, kind of like the ATV Off-Road Fury series, or the MX vs. ATV Unleashed series, if you guys remember those games, where once you go off a jump, you can hold the shoulder buttons to do different variations of tricks, including even hitting the triangle button as like an alternate trick, so to speak. And there's a lot of different ones to master. You can even do quick spins for like 360s, 720s. You can even do backflips and front flips, the whole 9 yards. There's a lot of tricks to master in this game, and they are not easy to pull off. Like, I'll say that right now. Even in this gameplay, I'll probably see me crashing a ton because they're fun to try out and to get used to, but they are really difficult to master. But again, that just kind of comes down to the replayability. The more you play it, the better you're going to get, and the more fun you're going to have trying to basically get these tricks to work flawlessly. Because once you do pull off like a huge line of tricks over and over again, this game makes you feel like a badass. On top of the tricks, there's also a little sense of car combat in this game, which isn't a huge surprise coming from the guys who made Twisted Metal. They even have their own game mode, which is like an arena car combat mode on mountain bikes, which is hilarious. It's pretty boring though once you've played it a couple times. It's literally just a circle dome and you go in against other characters, hitting them with sticks or checking them with your bike or throwing like water bottles at them to knock them off their bike to get points. It's silly, it's fun, especially if you have friends, you can do multiplayer. And this game supports up to 4-player split screen, which is pretty crazy, especially for back on the PS2 days. So that was really cool to see. And it was really fun from what I remember going split screen against somebody going down a mountain in a race. I always really enjoyed that. But yeah, the combat itself, it's really silly more than it is like important. You don't have to be competitive with this game. Like, you don't have to walk up to your competitor and hit them with a stick to knock them off their bike to get in front of them. There is a lot of opportunities to jump over your opponent or just fly past them if you get a certain power up. And speaking of that, yes, there are different power-ups along the trail. Some of them give you an extra boost of speed. Some of them give you energy to move a little quicker for a little longer of time. Some of them give you like an instant back on your bike if you were to crash or to fall off your bike, which is very helpful. But all in all, I think the game is pretty balanced. Like I said, it's not an easy game, and the enemy AI is pretty smart. They don't crash a whole lot unless you make them crash with the combat, but they also have a lot of catch up. So if you do get ahead of somebody or the entire pack for most of the race, if you make like one mistake and hit a tree, they're going to be right behind you ready to go, which I think is actually probably the better way to do it. Instead of just every time you get in first place, you're pretty much just destroying the competition. There's no challenge with it. So I do like the way they did it in this situation. But yeah, the different power-ups, again, add a little bit extra arcadey flair to the gameplay that really makes you feel great over time with the boosts and the going off massive jumps and stuff like that. It really feels badass playing through this game even today. They also have a really killer soundtrack to amp up your energy while playing the game. Sadly, obviously I can't play any of that in this video because of copyright, but they have a ton of different bands from all different genres of music, from Cirrus, Freeze Pop, Slipknot, Toby Mac, Cinder, and Saliva, just to name a few, but there is a ton of tracks in this game. If I remember right, you could even go in the settings and kind of pick and choose your jukebox, so to speak, of which songs you want to hear. I thought that was just a really cool, innovative thing for the time, because back in the day, we didn't have a way of like streaming the music you wanted with your game playing at the same time. Whereas nowadays, obviously, you can have Spotify playing or whatever, which is just super cool. But yeah, back then to have this kind of a feature was really neat. And I know I kind of talked about a little bit of the arena combat as another game mode, and other than that, the only other game mode is time trials. So if you're not a racing fan, if you don't give a shit at all about racing and being number one, you're not gonna get a whole lot out of this game, sadly. It is a racing game through and through. However, I can say, even if you're not a massive racing fan, you can still find a lot of fun with this game. And I would say that the same of like games like Flat Out or maybe Burnout. And the reason I say that is because those games, yes, they are racing games, but they try to push other elements of gameplay in there to keep your attention and to make it more engaging for the player, which I have to applaud for that. And that's the same thing here with Downhill Domination. I just think it was heavily underrated. It wasn't appreciated nearly enough as it deserved. And I think a lot of people just kind of walked away from it after seeing just the title of, oh, it's a mountain biking racing game, like who cares? And I can understand that, you know, because again, like there really isn't a big genre out there for mountain biking video games other than just, okay, it's a mountain biking game. That's whoop-de-doo. Maybe it's like a simulator. Maybe it's supposed to be realistic. And I don't care about my mountain biking, so I'm going to skip this one. And that is really sad because, yeah, this game is its own thing. I think this game could have gotten lots of sequels. It could have been very successful. Like imagine this game on the go. I think this would have been a very successful PSP game. But I would have, again, just loved to see it make its way to the mainstream and maybe even one day get a multiplayer game where you could play against people online. That would have been insane, a lot of fun. So who knows, maybe one day Scott Campbell will come out of retirement from making video games and he'll get his chance to make a sequel to Downhill Domination, and hopefully it'll be a success. Because I would love nothing more than to play this game again with a new engine, with today's graphics, of course, and being able to play against my friends online would be an absolute treat. So that's pretty much it for this video of Do You Remember? Let me know in the comment section below if you've checked out Downhill Domination before, or if this is the first time you're ever hearing about it and if you want to try it out based on my video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like to show your support as always. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace out. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of the video. Before we head out, I want to give a huge special thank you to our channel members. These are amazing people who are wanting to support the channel and the content here. And if you want to do the same, you can click the little join button underneath every single new upload. And in becoming a channel member not only supports me and the channel, but also gives you a ton of perks in doing so, including early access to new content and being a part of exclusive polls and information that other people would not be able to access. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you again so much for the love and support, and we'll hopefully see you in the next one. Peace out.